message before the break, and I actually think this is a very reasonable question. Did Mississippi State and Ole Miss spend too much on Tuesday? I mean, we are in the grind of basketball season, and these teams are used to the quick turnaround. That wasn't a long trip for Mississippi State. It was a home game for Ole Miss, followed by another home game for Mississippi State. It was a road game, followed by a road game. But it was the two closest possible road games for Mississippi State, and it was Tuesday and not Wednesday. So there was an extra day of recovery. And yet, if you think back to the way that game was played on Tuesday night, it was played at such a high level. The intensity level for the entire 40 minutes was off the charts. You had Mississippi State that played from behind for most of the game. It was high-paced, up and down the floor. It's not impossible, but at the same time, again, these guys are used to that kind of turnaround over and over and over, and I don't know that you necessarily can point to the results on Saturday and go, well, that's really a function of what happened on Tuesday. We have college basketball teams with relatively short rotations that play quick turnaround games all the time. So I don't think that was the case. I guess it's possible that it factored in. Alabama on Saturday night at Coleman Coliseum in Tuscaloosa beat Mississippi State 99-67. They outscored them by 23 in the first half and by 9 in the second half. Hey, Dad, I heard you guys talk with Bruce Marshall on Friday afternoon, and Bruce said he was not really feeling it in terms of betting against Alabama at home right now with the way they play offense. And I know you were in the same boat, but you guys were talking about an 8.5-point spread. The spread could have been 30, and Bama still would have covered. It was not good. Your thoughts, sir?
Dynamite sum up there. You got it. I don't need no notes. They played like crap. There's just no getting around that. I mean, DJ Jeffrey's getting hurt. I know people are going to say, well, he doesn't bring a lot offensively, but he does bring a lot defensively.
Yeah.
So that shortened up an already short rotation. I mean, Keyshawn Murphy still not playing just yet, and State just doesn't have any depth right now. Talking to Jans today, he reported that Jeffrey's going to be out for a while. He said it wouldn't be a long time, but he did say a while, which to me is a long time, but I don't know. And Trey Fort's still out for a little while, day-to-day with him. State desperately needs Keyshawn Murphy back in the lineup, if not Wednesday, by Saturday when they play Missouri.
Are you under the impression that that's happening all of a sudden?
Yes. Yes, he's back with the team. He traveled with the team to Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
And I think he'll be back in the lineup sooner rather than later. And they need it. They need somebody in there to give them some more minutes in the front court. Otherwise, they're going to have to go back to, a lineup maybe with Tolu and Jimmy Bell, which I know Jans does not want to do. But, I mean, there was a moment, we talked about it on the podcast, there was a moment where State's 5 guys on the floor are Deshaun Davis, Shaq Moore, Cam Matthews, Sean Jones, and Jimmy Bell. Where are your points? Who is going to score out of that lineup? State just doesn't have any offensive options right now outside of Tolu and Josh Hubbard. When other guys get points, it feels like you're pleasantly surprised by it. Cam Matthews gets in the double digits. You're like, oh man, Cam Matthews had double digits. That's great. You can't rely on anybody else to be that third scorer for State right now.
And to your point,
the good news is
Josh Hubbard has 7 points in 24 minutes on 1 of 9 shooting, and he's 0 of 5 from behind the arc. Yeah. Cam Matthews, who had back-to-back monster games against Auburn and Ole Miss, had 2 points and 6 rebounds in 26 minutes. DJ Jeffries does not score in his 10 minutes on the floor. I mean, good grief, Sean Jones played 31 minutes on Saturday night. He scored in double figures. He had 10 points, but you don't need 31 minutes from Sean Jones.
And he's probably going to have to start on Wednesday with Jeffries out, I would imagine. So Really, really tough stretch for Mississippi State. We've talked about it. You couldn't have known before the season started that they were going to play 8 quad 1 games in 9 to start conference play. Now you look at their next 3 games. They're at home against Georgia. Georgia's a decent team, but you should be able to beat them at home. You're at Missouri, who, they lost to Vanderbilt this weekend. That's a team you should be able to beat on the road and get your first road win of the year. And then you get Arkansas at home a week from Saturday. You don't have the midweek game next week. So that's a game that, Missouri and Arkansas are must-win games. You can't lose those games if you want to be a tournament team when we get to that point. So State's got to find some wins. Their resume is what it is. The analytics still like them, but it's meaningless if you don't win games, and that's where State needs to get right now. They need to start winning basketball games, and this next stretch for them is going to be very key for that.
And brother, Wednesday night is massive. I mean, massive. I think you actually sold Georgia a little short. I think Georgia's good.
They're a good team.
I don't think they're great.
They're a good team.
They're not elite.
Right.
They're not scary, but they're good.
They're good. They're good enough to come to Starkville and win.
You're 100% right, though, about the next 2 Saturdays, both at home, Missouri and Arkansas. I'm sorry, the Missouri game's a road game, and then Arkansas at home. There's no margin for error with those two. None.
You have to be 2-0 in those games. You really need to be 3-0 in these next 3. And then you play Ole Miss at home on Wednesday the 21st, and we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. And this just in, Alabama's good. Mark Sears goes for 21. Estrada goes for 15. They get 14 out of a couple of bench players. Diabate and Stevenson both go for 14. And then they just have a bunch of guys that score a little bit. And they do a good job. Nelson Grant only plays 14 minutes in the game. And he's been one of their stars in the post. Did he have foul? Yeah, he fouled out. So he had some foul issues in the ballgame and didn't play as much. Chris Jans was asked about, reasons for optimism, and he pointed to last year with the way the schedule flipped and Mississippi State really got it rolling, and now's the opportunity to do that, right? It's kind of now or never when you look up and you see that you're 3-6 in Southeastern Conference play.
Yeah, this time last year they were, if I'm correct, they were 1-8. They started off really poorly last year. 1-7, 1-8. Yeah, something like, it was bad. So they're ahead of that pace, and they have 2 top 10 wins on the resume right now. But all that is meaningless if in these next 5 games you don't find a way to maybe win 4 of them.
And look, we've talked about the schedule kind of flipping, but it doesn't flip the way it did last year. Right. There were some bad teams in the SEC last year. This year, the bad teams are Arkansas, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. That's it. Georgia's a good team. Missouri, that's a road game. Again, one you should be able to win. Arkansas in Starkville, got to win that game. Really need to get the game against Ole Miss in the second of the season rematch. LSU in Baton Rouge is not a gimme. Kentucky at home is not a gimme. At Auburn is not a gimme. At Texas A&M, not a gimme. And then closing it out against the South Carolina team that Mississippi State lost to in the opener of league play. And it's a South Carolina team that deserves more than just kind of, that's a pretty good team. South Carolina has gotten to the point where they're really good.
Yeah.
They're a
good basketball team.